how do you know how many people are ready to buy something from you? How do you know who needs a follow-up conversation?
You need to know what you're automating so you can figure out, how do I automate it the best way possible? The whole idea of going out and sending 100 messages and getting 30 to respond, 30 to engage, and 30% to a call, and like all these things, and then you end up with 3 sales or 6 sales or whatever the case may be at the end of it. It's a lot of fucking work.
Yeah.
And I wonder, because I get plenty of cold DMs that are just terrible. I'm sure you do as well. Like they're awful. But did cold DMing get a bad rap because it was easy to say it sucks, because who wants to actually do that 100 times a day? Because I know I don't. And did it get a bad rap because everybody's just lazy and literally copy and paste the exact same message to every single person? And what I mean by that, on the other side of it, like what I'm seeing, greater than 50% of people responding is, I don't know, everybody, oh, it's never going to happen. It just seems weird. Maybe I'm in a pocket, like this period of time, I'm running high, and on the other side, like I'm going to dip down to 5% and it'll even out to that 30%. I don't know.
You'll miss it.
But like for the past almost 2 weeks, when I got home from my last trip, it's been more than 50% of people. So,
I mean, yeah, at that point, it just, I think it's funny whenever people think that they need to have all these robust systems in place as they're starting their business. They're like, I need to have this oriented. I need to have these automations in place. I need to have a payment processing system in place. I need to, and by and large, they over-systematize their entire approach prior to it actually being relevant to solve the immediate problem, which is, how do you collect your first dollar? I took cash payments for 5 years. Not that the IRS would ever, and I paid taxes on those. It's fine. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's, you do the thing. There's a value exchange, meaning you are traditionally looking for being able to pay your bills. That's the thing that you value. It's the thing you hold important. And they find that whatever service, education, or learning curve that you help them attenuate or decrease is a value that they get as it relates to their health, fitness, nutrition, whatever it is, behaviors, right? And I think that when we talk about, and we've mentioned the automated outbound model in an earlier podcast, having something like that can easily and quickly drown someone in the nature of those conversations. So they also, and this is something we talk about in terms of sales pipeline management, which is, how do you know how many people are ready to buy something from you? How do you know who needs a follow-up conversation? How do you know where maybe you need more conversations to start getting struck up? And I think the nature of maybe this episode, we discuss what it looks like to manage a sales pipeline and potentially evaluating that, because it is such a profound thing that people have no idea. So when people say, I need leads, I need leads, I need leads, I need another opportunity, yet they have, I think in our case, 35,000 in the middle of the funnel that never got touched. And the conversation was always like, I need to spend more money on advertising to get more money more money on advertising to basically then turn around and get people to a sales call. And if they don't buy anything, or if they don't show up, or if they never schedule, or nothing ever happens, we don't really track that. Then we're worried about the next month starting over and trying to sell a whole different group of people. And while they might be penetrating the industry a little more and getting their name out there a little bit, there's so much wasted potential in the middle of that funnel, where when you think about, and if you haven't listened to our previous podcast episode with Nick Ross, one of the sales wizards, he discusses that we're in a trust recession, which I strongly agree with, in that there are a lot of people that just frankly suck as coaches. If I'm going to put it bluntly, they don't know what they're doing. They've literally taken someone's method, they've copied it, and they've pasted it the same way that you just mentioned in the DM. like people will copy and paste DMs. If you copy and paste and put a whole bunch of people into a program that isn't necessarily contextualized for that person, they're not going to get the results. And when people pay for a service and they don't get a result, inherently you start to understand that I don't really want to play that game. So we look at MLMs. Advocare was a huge one, or was
Yeah.
Advocare, right? Yeah. Advocare. What was the V one? There's like one that starts with a V. It was a Arbonne. Arbonne was one, right? All these things, and people started to understand that. And this is the same idea here as in any service industry. Is you have to be relentless with protecting your reputation. Otherwise, people will see you like an Arbonne, they'll see you like an Advocare, and they'll think that you're trying to pull one over on them of, hey, girly, do you want to be your own boss? Do you want to make a 7-figure salary working from home? You're like, oh, yeah, the first couple of people get got, but then after a while, your reputation circulates and people just don't see the value in that thing. So going back to good coaching is good business, managing your pipeline and nurturing those relationships and building trust in the people you already have is going to be one of the biggest things that you can do at, generally speaking, most stages of your growth and development. I mean, Steve, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, and like I was saying about the DMing side of things, it comes down to a lack of effort. If I went out and
Mm-hmm.
manually messaged 100 people today, I now believe that I would get greater than 50% of them to respond to me, because that meant like
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting it with a bot that's doing the work for me. But again, the intention on the
Mm-hmm.
other side is to truly like, hey, give me ideas for content, because I really suck at that, right? Like, it's genuine
Mm-hmm.
100%. But I believe if we were going to try to sell, let's say, Empowered to a bunch of people, I would end up getting in those conversations because genuinely, I think on the other side, that thing can help a lot of people. Like, hey, 60 bucks a month and you get all of these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm learning now, and what I see, the whole cold DMing sucks, or copy and paste programming, or whatever thing is like, hey, let me just get there and get it easy. The root cause
Mm-hmm.
of the actual issue is laziness. You're just trying to get there more
Mm-hmm.
quickly, and you're not understanding the actual underlying thing that's truly going on. In a cold DM, like,
Mm-hmm.
cold DM is like, you meet somebody in the gym and like, hey, my name is Steve, what's your name? Like, same fucking
Mm-hmm.
thing. You're in person. It's a cold relationship introduction, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're sitting with somebody on a ski lift while you're snowboarding. Hey, I'm Steve. What's your name? Oh, I'm so and so from whatever state. Where are you from? Oh, like, cold introduction. Like, it happens all the time, but
Mm-hmm.
because it's through DM, and because it's easy to go out and hire a VA for $5 an hour to send out 100 a day, the intentionality behind it kind of suffers. So your programming, it suffers.
Mm-hmm.
Your service delivery, it suffers. Your results, they suffer. All of those
Mm-hmm.
things suffer when you do over systematize stuff. Now, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
big fan of automation. I'm a big fan of all of that stuff, all the computer things that we can do. But the hard
Mm-hmm.
reality is, if you have like 5 or 10 clients, you probably don't need all this scaled up stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, the person teaching you all this scaled up stuff, they don't remember what it's like to be doing $5,000 a month and trying to grow that.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, they're trying to figure out how to get from like 500,000 to a million, at which point it does become a
Yeah.
little bit more of a volume game, because most of those people want to keep their margins intact, and they'd rather pay a few people, you know, low money than pay a lot of people a lot of
Mm-hmm.
money to kind of grow their business. Some people have gone from 500K down to 50K a month, and that's a whole different story. But you need to think about not being lazy. And I realize you're actually, I hope that aggravates somebody. I hope somebody, I'm not being lazy. Like, I truly do, because I don't think you actually go, oh, well, let me take the easy way out and the lazy way out. I think you unintentionally followed somebody. They said literally, steal my, here's my, copy my, whatever thing they did. And you're just doing that
Mm-hmm.
without ultimately truly making it your own. You're not making it intentional. You're not actually doing the work behind it. And that's the thing that's
Mm-hmm.
causing the poor outcomes, or worse than could be manual outcomes, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think you also bring up a great point in that if you get triggered by something, chances are just a blind spot, and you might not know that there's a better way, and it might aggravate you from the perspective of, well, I'm doing that. I feel judged. I feel belittled. I feel some kind of way about it. I feel like I'm not doing what I know I should be doing or what I could be doing. And it creates this whole emotional response, which, I mean, oddly enough, when we talk about giving feedback, it's, you're going to get told stuff that you're not expecting sometimes. And you got to be able to be okay with that, because that's a sign of emotional and professional maturity, of taking that, looking at, is this relevant? Is this something that I can implement to increase and improve what I'm doing? And if it is, then you just execute. And if it's not, then you just put that in the discard pile. But at the end of the day, I think that people are definitely caught in the cycle of more or less like a get rich quick scheme, is what it seems like everyone is trying to do. Get to 10K months. And now we're seeing the same individuals that were saying 10K months. Now they're like, oh, well, no one needs to do that. And you know, it's really entertaining to think that people used to be like, oh, we're going to do this high ticket coaching thing. And now high ticket coaching is dead. And now high ticket coaching needs to be a function of your ability to deliver service, when the same person was like, oh, we need to market our way to another 7-figure month. And, so it's just, you always see this oscillating back and forth. It's because there's the idea that they threw the baby out with the bathwater, and they went to black and white. Need marketing, need sales, don't need fulfillment. Okay. Well, fulfillment sucked. Now we have to do more marketing and sales to offset that. And so this is where, when you look at your pipeline and managing a sales pipeline, your sales pipeline doesn't stop at closed won. And this is where I will disagree with Nick, because the idea is, I collected the dollars. Now they're in. Well, now you have to collect more dollars from them eventually, if you want to have a solvent business that you're not constantly throwing dollars at to go and get new eyeballs. So you take that person, and generally speaking, and Steve, I'd like to know your thoughts on this in a second, but like, when we walk people through a pipeline, effectively we're going from point A to point Z. And there might be 26 steps in there, there might be 13 steps in there, there might be 3. If you don't know what the fuck you're doing, slow down and create maybe 3 to 5 steps, right? Maybe they're in, and we kind of, and I will credit, oh gosh, I can't remember where I learned this, but this is not original. Like, you need to find the people that are looking for your service. You need to build relationships with them. You then need to gather the opportunity, or gain the trust to help service that person. You need to deliver on the things you promised them, and then you need to take care of them and make sure they have a good transition out. Basically it. Now, each of those gets more granular, and you heard briefly not yesterday, but in the previous podcast episode with Nick Ross, he talks about, like, was it, I don't remember his steps. Basically, like, find the person, more or less the same thing, right? But there are some things of, you book the call, you get them to show up to the call, you then either close them on the call, you send an invoice, you collect the dollars, or you close loss, put them back in the nurtured column, right? And those are the people that you're constantly reinforcing, building trust until you get another opportunity to potentially get them to engage in your service, product, or what have you. And so the way that I generally break it down is, like, we go, you got contact information. That's great. Now they're in the game. Once you have contact information, did you deliver something valuable to them? Cool. If you did, now you have a reason to follow up with them. Hey, how was that guide? How was that resource? How was that diet book? Once you do that, then you're going to try to get them to book a call if you think that it might be a good use of both of your times. Maybe they have questions. If they ask you more than a 1-sentence answer question, or they ask you more than 2 questions in a row, I think that warrants a call, because now you're going to be spending all fucking day answering 17 DMs out of the 30 that you sent. And you're like, Jesus Christ, like, it becomes a poor return on your investment in terms of time for an immediate outcome. Now, if you have a lot of time, doesn't matter. Your time ain't worth much. But as you get busier, you need to get better at protecting that. So your processes, my point is, need to evolve as your demands on your time and the constraints start to change as well. But once you get them on a call, then you have the opportunity, understand the problem, bridge the solution with whatever services you have, or get them a resource or refer them out. Like, you're not always trying to help them engage in your stuff. That's kind of a misnomer. You're trying to help them make a decision. Once they do that, let's say they do purchase something from you, then what you're going to do is you're going to take that person, you're going to put them in your your framework, your steps, whatever. I have a pretty easy 3-step thing, which they are pretty robust, But generally speaking, you need an adoption and adaptation phase. How long does it take for them to adopt the new behavior? How long does that set of behaviors take to change something, right? If they want to lose body fat, tracking food, working out, 10,000 steps, if that's a thing, 8,000 is actually the new number. But how long does it take for them to do that consistently to 80%? That's the adoption curve. Okay, well, let's say they did that 80%. It took them 4 weeks. Well, we know now that every time we were going to make a change, it's going to take them about 4 weeks to adopt that new behavior and to execute it well. Like, all right, cool. So that's the first phase. The second phase is like an intensification. Like, okay, we know what works. Let's double down on it until we're at goal. And then the third phase is effectively a reassessment, realignment, where you've achieved your goal. Now you figure out what comes next. Those are 3 blocks. And so now, depending on where people are in that back part of my pipeline, if they're in the reassessment phase, I'm now going to ask for a referral. I'm going to make sure that they're set up for whatever comes next. We might even find another goal. But generally speaking, that's how I frame out my pipeline and how I mentor a lot of personal trainers to currently do that as well. Steve, what's your pipeline look like?
Yeah, I mean,
How you manage your prospect?
you mentioned the idea that the sale doesn't end. It's kind of just beginning once you collect the money from them the first time. And
Mm-hmm.
I think there's semantics at play, to an extent,
Sure.
right? But we have the R3 framework, and the whole goal is we want to collect payment 3 times from somebody. The first time is the first time they join whatever it is that we're selling them or wanting them to buy.
Mm-hmm.
The second time is when they buy the second thing from us or renew their whatever they have existing. And then the third time is going to ultimately be how do we get that referral out of them? So,
Mm-hmm.
it's just that process where we want those 3 payments, and that's how we really make our marketing efforts just scale up so that way
Mm-hmm.
we can rely on some of the
Yeah.
back end stuff. So the initial sale is done once you collect the money. The subsequent 2
Mm-hmm.
sales you still have to get done, and that's why we have things like the service roadmap to help map out
Mm-hmm.
those things. They're not set in stone per se, but you got to like go in a direction to try to get them. So for me, you're collecting information, you're giving value, you're trying to get them to a call or a conversation or whatever the case may be, and then you're delivering whatever the offer is and getting them to ultimately say yes or no. That's out of the gates the first big kind of stages that we have, which I think most people would say something very similar to that. The next
Mm-hmm.
thing comes down to how quickly can we get them a sustainable, meaningful result and progress towards their goals. That's what's going to ultimately lead us to door number 2 or payment number 2, which is going to now come to effectively the R2 part of the things, right? So, you bring up good points of adoption and adaptation and all of these components. So it's like, how quickly can we get there? Because on the other side of that, that's an ideal time to now say, hey, you should renew, you should re-up, you should extend, you should
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, and get that, get more of this thing that's getting you what you want. So the more quickly you can get them results, the better off you are. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you can get somebody as a client, take them out back, chop off their arm, and they lost weight. That doesn't mean they're going to buy from you again, right? So when I say like real, meaningful, sustainable results, don't tell them to go on a 5-day water fast and then turn around and be like, oh, we lost weight, you should sign up more, right? Like I just want to throw that out there as a shit example. Then we start to think about, that long-term vision. They bought the first time, they signed up because they got the
Mm-hmm.
results, for the extended period, whatever it is that you're offering. And now it comes down to how are we going to go ahead and get somebody else that they know that needs something that we're selling? Who else can I help? Who else needs my services? So those paths, those checkpoints have to happen. Everybody's framework that you have should have
Mm-hmm.
components where I'm going to get them a result by doing ABC, or B is the result phase, or whatever it is. That needs to
Yeah.
be a piece of it. And then whatever the next step is, you're going to have some type of like, let's check our overarching progress for a little bit longer of a period of time, see where we're at. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
things are not only in a single win, but like overarching going well. Great. Who else can I
Mm-hmm.
help? That needs to be a part of it as well. And we can overcomplicate it and make it 26 steps long because you should always send a gift after they do this, and the birthday gifts and the phones and the text every Friday. Or we can make it as simple as possible. If you're new and you have less clients, go simple. If you have more clients and things like that, you probably have systems or people to help you, and then you can make it more convoluted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely want to scaffold. Don't start don't start with the crazy stuff. And I think a lot of people will really major in the minors, stepping over pennies, stepping over dollars to pick up pennies in the way that they'll be like, after the first week, send them a fucking Starbucks gift card. I'm like, you're charging them $100 a month. Don't send them shit, bro. Like, you need to maintain your margins a
Yeah.
little bit. And I'm obviously, this is being hyperbolic, but like, people be like, well, what's the upsell opportunity? And what's, like, if you're working on your first 5 to 10 clients, you need to chill. You're working on the back half of your pipeline, right? You're trying to make sure that you have such a great service from a client feedback. And if you don't have client feedback surveys, comment feedback surveys below, and we'll send you an example of what you might send people after a coaching call, which you probably should be doing coaching calls. We know that higher touch points have better stickiness, but it doesn't necessarily scale the most. So you got to figure out what kind of business you want. But in your first 5 to 10 clients, which usually takes most people about 6 to 12 months to gather that, because you're figuring it out, it's going to take you longer up front to get more clients, because you have no idea how to get clients. You have no idea how to speak to your stuff. You have no idea what kind of coach processes you have. So you're just really working through that muddiness, which is really uncomfortable for a lot of people. But when we talk about pipeline, remember how I said, like, the 3 phases: adoption, adaptation, intensification, results, review, reframe, whatever, right? When you get to that, that's what you're trying to figure out, where you're now going to now try to put more people into that process. If you don't have that process lined out, and now let's say that you're sitting across from someone and they're a super intelligent individual, they're probably a manager or some kind of decision maker somewhere, and you're like, hey, it's going to be $1,000 down and $250 a month controlled access model, which I don't really agree with. Most new coaches should be doing. It's the dumbest fucking thing ever, because now you're going to be really in your head of like, oh, I have to ask for $1,000. Like, don't do that. My opinion. Comment below if you hate that, and I'll light you up in the comments. But now I will say again, everything's nuanced and contextualized. If you are an advanced coach and you are almost at capacity, that could be a way of vetting people and making sure that you're getting the people that are caterpillaring your rates, which I'm highly, highly supportive of. It's law of economics. The less supply you have, the more demand you have, the higher the price action. The inverse is true. The more supply you have, or the more hours you have, the less demand you have, the lower the price action. Is too much, right? You can have too much availability, not be available enough. And so, as you're thinking about that, this is where, when you look at the big picture, figure out what your process is so you get comfortable and confident in selling people into that and persuading them, or you really get good at speaking to what it is that you do and how you do it and how you think it might help people. And if you can do that, you don't really even need to necessarily understand a lot about sales, because you just feel a strong sense of conviction in your ability to help people, or in your ability to refer them to other people that can help them. Because again, remember, this is a very, very blue ocean. The way that you coach is very different than how I coach, than how Steve coaches, than how just about anyone else will coach, because you have different
Don't
experiences
come
in
to me for
life.
coaching. Oh,
Business coaching.
sure. My
Business coaching.
fitness and nutrition coaching, I have like one trick up my sleeve, and if you don't follow it exactly as I say to a T, I fire you immediately. And there's no refunds.
In our newsletter, actually, and if you're not on that newsletter, make sure you go on our website and opt in. It's really good, because actually in our blog post / newsletter thing we put out today, is we talk about how not to play whack-a-mole with every single stupid fucking client problem that comes up, because your clients will bring you some stupid shit. And like, oh my God, my stepmom's coming in town and I don't know. And I'm like, then just don't do anything for the weekend. Just move on. Pick back up when you come back. Right? People really just get lost in the weeds, the details, and they forget the big picture, which is, are you making progress? And by the way, when you're making progress, a 1% change is considered acceptable week over week. Right. So when I say, like, if I weigh 175 pounds and I want to lose some body fat, 1% of that would be 1.7 pounds. If you lose 1.7 pounds of body fat in a week, which I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts of that, but that would probably be okay. If you're losing less than that, that means you want to pay attention. If you're losing more than that, that means you want to pay attention. Right. If you're losing that, then that means don't fuck with it. Just let it ride for a little bit and don't mess with things that are working. That's just good coaching. Sometimes, a good horse jockey just lets the horse run. So all that to say is, If you're a new coach, you're figuring out how you deliver service so you can speak to it. If you've been doing this for a while and you feel comfortable and you know that you can help people on the back end, now what you're trying to figure out is how to get more people into the thing or the process that you know is helpful. And that's really how I would break down coach mentorship and development is which problem do you have? Do you have a problem speaking to your process, or do you have a problem getting your process in front of more people? And that's usually kind of sales is kind of in the middle there. But
Yeah.
my soapbox on that.
No, I think it makes sense, and don't overcomplicate things. Like, just get in
Mm-mm.
and do it. If it's coaching, do the things you have to do to get them results. If it's
Yeah.
getting better at sales, go have more sales conversations. If it's getting more chances
Mm-hmm.
at sales, go cold DM more people. Whatever the thing might be,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
do it with
Mm-hmm.
intention and make sure that you're not taking the
Yeah.
easy, lazy way out. Like, focus on doing it real. Because here's the crazy thing as well. When you get to a point in time where you can grow and scale, and you're going to go
Mm-hmm.
down the road of, I need to automate the thing, you need to understand the foundation anyways. You need to know what you're automating so you can figure out, how do I automate it the best way possible. If you only surface
Mm-hmm.
level know all this shit and you've copied it from every single person, it's going to be so much harder
Mm-hmm.
for you at that point in time.
So
And you're going to
much.
have to solve it while you have 20 to 30 clients, you're doing sales calls, you're doing the DMing and everything else in between. Or just
Yeah.
learn it now, and then when it's time to go do the thing, you can just get the thing done. You're choosing your hard. It's either now or later, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So
100%. 100%. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's like everything stacks on good coaching. You're literally in the service delivery industry. And if you can't deliver the service, then like you're really just setting yourself up for failure in the future, for bad will to be sown, and for you to have a really shitty reputation, which is going to make business growth so much harder. Do it right early. Spend the 6 months, spend the 12 months just learning how to do it by practicing as much as possible. Go coach fucking 30 people for free. People are like, oh, I don't want to coach people for free. Well, you're going to be a shitty coach then because you're going to have less experience, you know? And I'm not saying that everyone has to do that, but I am saying you need to go get experience. You need to go get practice reps. Go work for another coach. Have them show you their specific thing. Go get a mentor, but you have to get your hands dirty to know what that process is for you. So that's pretty much all I have to say on today's episode of pipeline management, getting piped down. Shouldn't say that, but
well,
anyways. So Steve, closing thoughts?
nothing closing, but thanks for listening in to Beyond the Pump today, where we break down the business of fitness and nutrition. If you have yet to subscribe, go smash that button, like the episode, throw some comments down at the bottom for anything you want us to talk
Mm-hmm.
about, and we
Yep.
will talk to you next time.
Oh, check out the new website. It's pretty sick.